for you. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:30. First order of business, I'd like to allow, we have some visitors to allow to speak this evening. So I'd like to make a motion to allow the following town representatives to speak on behalf of their respective towns regarding the FY27 budget. For the town of West Brookfield, that would be Teresa Kosky, town manager, Board of Selectmen, Cammy Lemica, and advisory member Dan Moberg. And for the town of Warren, Jim Ferreira, town manager.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. All right. All right. I'd like to make a motion to accept the official votes from Warren. Oh, sorry. Skip something. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to accept the official votes from Warren and West Brookfield as outlined below. For the town of Warren, Matt Peliquin, 418 votes. Pat Sislak, 29 write-ins. Phil Landine, 258 votes. Travis Matheson, 266 votes. For the town of West Brookfield, Phil Landine, 607 votes. Travis Matheson, 639 votes. Matt Peliquin, 534 votes. Pat Sislak, 38 write-ins. This comes to a total for West Brookfield of Phil Landine, 865. Travis Matheson, 905. And for the town of Warren, Matt Peliquin, 952, and Pat Sislak, 67. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try to speak up a little bit. Second? Second. Okay. Any further discussions for the voting? Okay. All in favor to accept the results from the towns? Okay. Abstentions? I'm sorry.
Should we have to one of those?
Okay. All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Is everyone sworn in?
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I'd like to welcome from the town of Warren, Pat Sislak, to the school committee. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll get you a real name tag at some point in time. So thank you very much. You got to earn it. Okay. At this point, we would like to invite Ms. Moberg, Ms. Kopsky, and Ms. Lamica to speak on behalf of the town of West Brookfield and or the town of Warren. And Mr. Ferreira as well. Yeah, about the override. Right in front. Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear here.
So I'm Cammy Lamica. I'm one of the select board members in the town of West Brookfield. Last Monday, Tuesday, I can't remember the days anymore. May 5th. On May 5th, we had our override election vote. We had two separate options that would fund the town as well as the school. School was going to be at two different option levels that the school committee had laid out, two different option versions. Those two different versions would have allowed funding for the town and the school. Unfortunately, the town of West Brookfield, the vote was denied or didn't pass on both amounts.
Not by much.
Not by much, but the bottom line is it did not pass, is the unfortunate part. It doesn't please me to tell that information, but that's a reality, I'm afraid. So West Brookfield is in that spot of having to reduce our town budgets. And part of what we've done with the advisory and the selectmen is went through the list of other cuts that would need to be made if the override did not pass at all. And we prepared that budget to go to town meeting, is what we're working on right now, to have a balanced budget go to town meeting. So that's what we've asked the school committee here to do, is take a look at their numbers to see if we could get there between all of our town departments and the school.
Amy, what is the number that you are asking the town to continue to cut still? So how much of the cuts are required to get to the town's budget?
I'll let Teresa answer the specific number.
So right now, we would be looking at about 269, right around there right now. And then there's still a couple of items that are unknown. So I would say there's a range up to maybe 300,000 at this point.
So let me just clarify for people that knew the override was at $1.1 million. We have cut with the advisory and the select board, and the town administrator sat in a meeting for 3 hours one night trying to get there. And we were able to go down very painfully and cut over $500,000 out of all the town departments and ask the school to reduce some amount as well. And we only got to 550 and we needed about 700. So we still had to get more. And that's what Teresa and the financial team at the town have been working on. How do we make up that extra piece of it?
Yeah, there was actually on top of that 700. So we reduced at that meeting $577,000. And we were still about 169 that we would have needed to have come up with, and then an additional around 230. So it's a big amount. It was a big amount.
I have a quick question. What's the long-term plan to solve this problem? Because I remember being in school committees 5-6 years ago, and we're talking about the same issue.
Sure.
And every year, it's next year we're going to fix it. Next year we're
No.
going to fix it. Next year we're going to fix it.
Yeah, so let me speak to that. I totally get what you're saying. So, and forgive me, I'm fairly new to West Brookfield, so I've had to do, it's been about a year, and I've had to do some digging. And as I look through, clearly you can see the trend. And the trend had been that there was a structural gap for many, many years. And so if we go back about 8 years, right, is probably when you first started hearing about it from the West Brookfield Advisory Committee. And at every town meeting and in every town report, they spoke about it. They spoke about this gap getting bigger, and they had advised not to continue using free cash. This was repeated over and over. Now, what happens with in Massachusetts with Prop 2.5, it keeps you at this amount, is the only increase. You can only increase your tax base by 2.5%, right? But when you're, sure.
Because I know like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, us in Warren, our taxes went 25% when they reevaluated the houses.
Mm-hmm.
How come that didn't happen over in West Brookfield?
No,
And it
so-
didn't, why did Warren do it and not West Brookfield?
I've heard this before.
It's
Somebody
legit.
from Warren
It is.
specifically.
Yeah, mine went up 25%.
So you can go to your town assessor's office in Warren and they'll explain it to you. It's not that the town can just take their tax base and raise it to whatever they want. They cannot. So some people, every 3 years, they have to recertify the values in town. Some houses, depending on the sales market, like in West Brookfield, ask anybody who lives on the lake, they have felt the pain the last couple of years since COVID. Because lake sales skyrocketed. Anybody at West Brookfield, at the lake, their houses skyrocketed, even though our tax rate went down. And that's the bottom line. It's the seesaw. Values, total assessment, makes the tax rate go up or down. That's how it works.
I know that in Warren, the same house in both towns is $1,000 more tax in Warren than it is in Westbrook.
But we cannot just arbitrarily raise the tax rate and the tax base. We asked the voters, and that's the only way we can raise it, by an override, and we were told no. And that's where we are.
But I want to get back to, let me get back to his original question. So Mr. Morgan had asked, what do we plan on doing in the future? So we have some short-term and long-term things that we're going to do. So internally, we can start by looking at financial policies and establishing those, which create the guardrails, right? For every aspect, whether it's special accounts such as stabilization, the use of free cash, all of those policies need to be put in place because that's where it stops. We're also going to be looking at, we've been applying for grants, we've received the grants to update our master planning. Now, the long-term goal would be to increase our economic development. As you can see, West Brookfield doesn't have a whole lot, but they do have a lot of character. There's going to be a balance there. So there's that we'll be looking at, working with the Chamber of Commerce, working with the, what they call the CEDS, which is Community Economic Development Plan, to become a part of that plan for Worcester County. And that gives us an opportunity to work with all our neighboring communities to kind of boast about each other and brand ourselves. We will be looking at working with all our departments, monitoring the spending, which, to be quite frank about it, the budgets have been cut down so much that it's bare bones to begin with. That's why these cuts have been so difficult. So we do have a laundry list of different things that we plan on doing and implementing, and we've asked our citizens keep reaching out to the state and federal government, because part of this problem is not just what we can raise in taxes, it's the fact that our UGGA funding, UGA as they call it, that is at a rate back of 2008 without any thought to increases in cost. So when you're getting what you got in 2008, it doesn't quite pay the bills. It's not enough. And so how we got here is that every year the town and the people voted to use free cash. There's a Band-Aid, and then nobody thought about it until the following year, and it's bigger and bigger. And this year was the year, there's no going back. This year, what we got certified for last year, $276,000 for free cash. That is not good. And we've been directed, do not touch it to support, to balance your budget. So.
Thank you for all that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Kowski, do you have any expectations, the school committee going forward, of any additional potential cuts to our budget?
That's not what the microphones are for.
Yeah, not going to do anything. I'm sorry, try to speak a little louder. Do you have any expectations going forward of asking us for additional cuts on the school side?
Well, we did. We asked, so your option 3 asked for a contribution of $349,000 over minimum contribution, and at the last joint meeting, we did ask the school to reduce that budget by another $100,000.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before they have a seat?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So it's important for everybody in the room to recognize that when we're asked to cut another $100,000 from the town of West Brookfield, because we're a regional district,
Right.
Warren makes up 60%, that means that they have to also cut, which is
Right.
about $150,000. So
Correct.
$100,000 additional ask to reduce is really $250,000
Yes.
on top of the devastating cuts that we're already making. The question I have, if we could, you were talking a little bit about the path that got us to where we're at. Could you share with the school board and those in the community here, what's free cash at right now? And if you could just share maybe in the last 2 years, what some of that free cash has been used to fund?
Sure.
Not just the school, but another general, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about the various purchases, various projects that are going on that free cash is being used for. So
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Sure. So if we look at last year's free cash, so first of all, let me answer your first question. So last year, we spent, I want to say it was over $900,000 in free cash. And some of that, so 500, okay. So some of that was used for other projects, as capital projects. So there would have been, I know that there was some small amounts towards the Route 9 project, the town's obligation. There was also, free cash was used during our special town meeting for the OPEB. So I want to say 100,000 went to that. There was also the, it is the benefits, it's not the OPEB, it's the benefits like the vacation and that type of stuff.
Compensated absences.
Yes, that's it. The compensated absences, and I want to say that was about 75,000. There were unpaid bills from prior fiscal years. There was underfunded appropriations for that fiscal year's budget. So there were several things, and then there was I want to say that was around 500,000, and then it was a little over 400,000 in free cash to supplement the town's overall budget, which includes obviously the school assessment. And then in that budget also, we used 48,000 in overlay to help support that, supplement that budget. So year after year, there has been free cash used for capital or projects or other things that we need to do, such as OPEB. But a large amount has been used every year to supplement the town's budget.
I mean, personally, I think $900,000 is a lot of money to spend in 1 year of free cash, but understand that there were some needs. I'm curious if you can just clarify for me, and I think others in this room, how much was spent on, if any, was there money spent on a fire truck? Was there money spent on legal bills? Was there money spent on the Leland Well project?
Yeah.
How much was spent? I didn't. How much was spent?
So
on
the Leland
three
Road
phases of the Route 9 project?
Leland Road project is not paid out of free cash.
Okay.
As far as legal, we had a special town meeting this past, I want to say it was January, but we didn't use any free cash for any of that. We actually looked at old articles that we had that had been spent for their purpose and had remaining funds, that type of thing. So what was left in free cash is about $17,000, and then 279 or 76 has been certified.
So how much?
You're looking at the combination of 17,000 and 276.
So how
right
much
now.
was spent just roughly on the three phases of the Route 9 project? Is there money being allocated for a new roof on the town hall? And
Not out of free cash,
that's
no.
not out of free cash, and it was
That's a
fire
borrowing.
truck, not out of free cash as well.
No, I think there was
Borrowing and
borrowing,
stabilization.
and yeah, it was
Was
out
that
of
fire
fire
truck
truck stabilization to do that. And I know there had been quite a bit of ARPA funding used for the Route 9 project.
But we were, a percentage came out of the town's coffers, correct?
Route 9?
Route 9?
That's 100% funded by the state, Route 9?
Other than the ARPA money and
No, I think there's been some small ones for like the ROWs, the right-of-ways,
Yes,
that the town's
those small ones,
obligation.
yeah. But not the project, not the paving,
But
not the,
costs associated with the project.
yeah,
we're not-
it's more the legal and the right-of-way takings.
And we have applied for, actually, our highway department has applied for significant grants with DOT, and the legislators are working with us on that as well. So they just submitted for a $500,000 grant to finish up the engineering with additional, I want to say another $1 million towards the project, so that it will prevent us from having to use all our Chapter 90 funds.
And just so I'm accurate, no free cash being allocated to the replacement of the roof on the townhouse? Or is that
Correct, no free cash.
Thank you for answering this.
Of course.
One final question. Can you just give us a little bit of an overview of some of the cuts some of the other departments
Sure.
are going to be experiencing after our last joint meeting?
Sure, of course. So I'll start with our public safety. Almost $200,000 cut from our police department. That equates to 2 full-time officers will be laid off, and our part-timers.
And the overtime.
And the overtime has been significantly cut to like bare bones. Then there's been cuts to the senior center. Right now they operate on a 5-day, Monday through Friday. They are currently cut down to 3 days. The library's being cut by 40 grand currently,
Which will affect their accreditation.
which will, yeah, it'll affect their certification. The selectman's office, we will not be funding the executive administrative assistant, so your town administrator will be doing both jobs.
Highway.
Highway department will be cutting their administrative assistant hours and highway personnel hours. So, yeah, every single department, there isn't a department that has not been affected with cuts. Yeah, you're right down to the town clerk's office. One position has been eliminated. Yeah, every department.
Average about 40%, something like that,
Yeah.
from last year.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Teresa, Dan, and Cammie, and the rest of the advisory board, select board, thank you for your collaboration throughout this process. As you know, we've been working together over the last several years, having very open and honest conversations about where we're at, going back to looking at regionalizing with North Brookfield and looking at tuition agreements and looking at the sustainability of the district. These are conversations that started back in 23, 24. And, you know, I know some of that hasn't come to fruition. We're hoping that it would. But there were many conversations that have been taking place over the last couple of years about how can we sustain what we have going on. And I know it's been very difficult on the town of West Brookfield, the financial position you're in. But I do appreciate you, number one, coming out so that the board can hear, because I report back every month on the meetings that we go to. But I think it's important for them to hear directly from the town as well. So I truly appreciate all that you do. I know it's a thankless job, but it's a difficult job, and we appreciate everything that you're trying to do to help every way that you can.
Thank you. So the one thing I do want to mention for most people that are here that don't live with this as much as we probably do day in and day out, the bottom line really comes down to 2 different things. On the town's level, we're allowed to increase taxes by the 2.5. And in West Brookfield, that equates in between that and new growth. For the town of West Brookfield, that's about $230,000 extra revenue each year, roughly. That's all our budget in the town, the total town. Extra revenue we have year over year. The school's facing the same thing. When they get their $75 or $100, whatever the number is per student from the state, That's the only number you get, extra revenue, and what they say the town's number needs to go up. Those are the only two additional revenue sources, other than going out and trying to find additional revenue sources somehow to bring in, is the only new revenues. But unfortunately, cost of salaries go up, cost of benefits go up, cost of maintenance in the past 5 years has gone up significantly. And that's the difficult part. Those costs are going up much faster than the revenues are going up. It's not that anybody's doing anything wrong, nobody's hiding any money. That's the reality of what's happening on the school side and the town side. Okay?
Awesome, thank you.
Don't make 150 grand for a 10 car.
And you lost a person?
Thank you very much again. We appreciate your time coming out tonight. Thank you. All right, that leads us to our next item on the agenda, which is Senate budget updates.
So the Senate did release their budget, and as discussed in prior budget subcommittee meetings, school committee meetings, we're hoping for an increase in the Senate budget. The Senate budget, I shared that information out with the school committee. The Senate budget came back identical to the House budget. So there was no increase in Chapter 70 funding, no increase in charter school reimbursement. It was the exact same budget that the House budget had. There was a big push for rural aid. I know that our senators and our House of Representatives have really been pushing the rural aid for rural districts, and we're hoping that the original push from the House was at $60 million. That could defeat it handily. I know that there were some hopes that it would come in at $50 million. It's $20 million on the floor right now. That still has to go through the Committee. So there was no change in our budget from the House to the Senate as it was last year. We benefited more last year. So that's the update on the budget for the Senate.
Thank you very much. All right. We're going to move into budget updates, but before we do that, Mr. Results, we do have a disclosure form I'd like the committee to vote on. Superintendent Duff does have a family member that does work in the district, so the conversations we'll be having this evening could possibly have a financial impact on him and his family. So therefore, we do have the official disclosure form as required by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I do need to sign it upon approval of the committee. So I'd like to make a motion to please accept the disclosure by Superintendent Duff. Second. All in favor? Abstentions? And okay. All right.
Greg,
Yes.
I'd like to make my conflict of interest.
Okay. Can we do that? Okay.
Well,
Sure.
just
Okay.
Full transparency. Yep. So when we take this vote, I'm going to need to abstain from the vote as a West Brookfield voter because my wife is a spouse. My spouse is an employee of the Quaboag Regional School District, so I've been advised from the Mass State Ethics Legal Counsel to abstain.
Okay.
So my disclosure has been filed in the both town of Warren and West Brookfield for many years now.
Perfect. Sure.
Yeah. Just for clarification, I am not a voting member on the committee, but I do have to disclose. I disclosed at the beginning of every school year that I do have a family member that works for the Quaboag Regional School District. If there was a vote tonight that could financially impact me, I am allowed to provide information to the committee that's factual information, unbiased factual information, but because there could be a financial interest, I am not allowed to vote anyways, but I do have to disclose that, which we do at the beginning of every school year. But because there may be a vote, it's a different form that I have to fill out.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Duff. Thank you, Mr. Burgess. All right, Nikki, you're up.
So I wrote it down so that I don't forget everything, because there's a lot going on, obviously. As we've entered into this FY27 budget, we've watched expenses like utility, contracted services, health insurance, transportation, retirement expenses, or the needs of our students were growing and requiring additional services. These expenses continue to increase exponentially. However, revenues from federal, state, and local funding for years have not increased enough to meet the growing needs of towns and require towns to start making hard decisions or ask for additional funding on the backs of taxpayers. While declining foundation enrollment, our state funding does not match the growth we see in said expenses, and even with growing school choice numbers, the formula has not changed in over 30 years. The problem isn't the school or the towns, but these antiquated methods of calculating much-needed revenues to us. Think of how your personal finances have been affected in the last year with these various expenses increasing and not receiving enough revenue to meet these expenses. Adding a town in our district struggling financially for the past several years with the use of stabilization funds and free cash to supplement the operational budget. This has led to several years of warnings from the West Brookfield Town Finance Committee, the Select Board, and even departments saying we cannot continue to fund the budgets of the town in the manner we have. If continued, they will find the town will no longer be able to sustain the level of funding that they have managed and will require massive cuts to balance the budgets. These talks have included no longer providing services that residents rely on or shuttering a school building in order to maintain budgets. This is where we are now, that those decisions have to be made. Today, our other town is financially stable, but that doesn't mean in a year or so they will be in the same place. Quaboag Regional School District is incredibly appreciative of the support of our towns and taxpayers and understand that we must do our part in order to allow our towns to function and remain financially viable. It is not our objective to bankrupt our towns. Where we are today did not just happen over the last few weeks, but has been years in the making with each decision made at town meetings, the ballot box, and other decisions that has led us here. Quaboag Regional School District has operated on a shoestring budget over the last decade at least, and have had to make hard decisions each year about what they can go without or find creative ways to serve our students within a fiscally responsible budget. Just a year or two ago, this district added paras at the kindergarten level and was the last district in the state to add them. And today, if we do not do something drastic, we stand to lose them and so much more. Every nickel counts, and there is not one soul in this district that does not know this. All staff, top to bottom, wear multiple hats all day in this district and work incredibly hard together to meet the needs of all of our students. This budget has been reviewed over and over, and we have worked within Quaboag Regional School District with all members of the community. We have communicated with town finance committees and town select boards, listened to students and parents, advocated with state leaders and other school districts to build a fiscally responsible budget. We started this process in November, just like our towns, and met with administration and department heads to put budgets together in a thoughtful manner and maximizing all of our funds. When we met with the West Brookfield Finance Committee back in the beginning of March, they were unsure if the town was even going to be able to fund the minimum contribution. We realized quickly that we would need to not only review this budget, potentially gut it, or even worse, close a school. Budget subcommittee, the school committee, and other members of this district have pored over items line by line, time and time again. During this time, we've created new budgets. Version 0 was the level service budget, meaning that's how we operate today, however, with any increases to the services that we've received. Version 1 was a budget that has cuts mainly to the middle high school, cutting administration position and other positions throughout our school. These cuts, while it reduced the budget and allowed all 3 campuses to remain open, it did not reduce the above minimum contribution enough so that it was affordable for each town. Version 2 was a budget that restructured the schools so the students would be in West Brookfield for K-3 and Warren 4-6. While this budget cuts increased significantly due to the realigning of classrooms, the transportation expense increased significantly and making this option unfeasible because the total assessment for each town would be over $6 million. West Brookfield's total budget is roughly about $10 million and Warren's budget is $12 million. Each town would have to make significant cuts in order to meet this assessment, while we wouldn't see the reimbursement for transportation until FY28. Version 3 budget is to close the school in the district. This budget has cuts from versions 1 and 2 and also additional staff cuts for the closure of a school. Total cuts to the district at this time are about 30 staff members from top to bottom. We have cut stipends, we've cut supply lines, we've cut areas that we are taking a risk on cutting too low. Even if this budget is approved today, I am not certain that once we move into the fiscal year that there will not be additional cuts due to removing excess pockets of fund to cover the unexpected. We have used our school choice, entitlement grants, circuit breakup, and all available funds to us. However, we do need to keep some reserves in the event that we have unexpected expenses that we need to cover. While there is no one in this district, the school committee, the superintendent, administration, faculty, and staff that wants to close a school based on all available funding for each town, this is truly the only option that is viable for Quaboag Regional School District to survive. While reviewing the options, Warren currently still has an MSBA project that they are paying on, and due to the terms of the program, an educational facility cannot be closed during a specific number of years, and while we're still paying down the debt. If the school building is closed during this time, the town is required to come up with the total amount of the debt at that point in time. This meant West Brookfield was the only option to close. Before this option was truly considered, we have looked at all funding options, all cuts, all programs, and hope that state numbers such as Chapter 70 funding, school choice, rural aid, circuit breaker would increase. As stated earlier, the state numbers from the Senate have not changed, and while rural aid might change next year, hopefully it will be even approved prior to July. This year we only received $220,000, and last year we received roughly $261,000. And I am not hopeful that it is an increase that is enough to cover the above minimum ask of the level service budget, or that other funds from the state will increase enough to cover what is needed to keep all 3 schools open. If the school is not closed and this budget is not approved, the towns will not meet any of the other assessments in the proposed budgets, and we will not have a budget to approve on town floor. This would require an additional town meeting or even more district meetings, and then force the district into a 1/12 budget. If this happens, then we would only be allowed to spend 1/12 of the budget based on FY26 until we have an approved budget from each town. And furthermore, if the towns do not vote on a presented assessment by June 30th, the district will not be allowed to pay any bills, as we do not have any funds voted from the town to come to the school district. And this means that all members of the district would have to be laid off until a budget has been approved by the towns. This means additional costs to the towns, as we would incur additional unemployment, potential other expenses for not meeting our fiscal obligations. Parents, I know this is a hard thing to hear. Everyone here in this room knows what a hard choice this is. However, your children will still be in an environment where they are cared for, where they can be themselves, where they can grow and meet new people earlier. They will still have the best staff that adore them and want to see each and every student be the best version of themselves. We don't want to see this happen either, and we know the town doesn't either. But this is truly the only option for us to operate and not bankrupt our towns. This will allow for more opportunities to help our students be the change the world needs. We have worked tirelessly to keep as many programs your children love and thrive in. This will be hard, but we are dedicated to your students and our community. We have been going through this budget. I know administration can tell you we've been going through this budget since, up until about 5 o'clock, cutting every line that we possibly can. We have reduced this budget further, and the budget that I will be asking you to vote on tonight has a total operating assessment for the town of Warren of $4,767,606, with a capital payment of $128,198. West Brookfield's assessment has been reduced to $5,139,871,000. At this point in time, we have gone through this budget for every single thing, and there is nothing else that can be cut at this time.
Thank you. Any members have a question for Mr. Sauce. Any questions about cuts programs?
This counting for what they just asked us to cut?
This is in excess of a little bit more, actually. Yep.
That's going to be my question.
The total tax levy for West Brookfield is 10 million, is that what
Their total budget.
their total budget?
Total budget. I mean, we've looked everywhere. There is not, we were asking about supply lines today. I mean, we've looked everywhere.
Do you know, like, how the impact of staffing, like, is there a percentage of staff that works with them?
Can't hear.
What is the impact of staffing at that funding? Like, how many people?
So with this funding, we are cutting roughly about 30 staff members. So it is from top to bottom.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Sauce? Good?
Go back to Mr. Wolford asked, for you,
Yes.
are they expecting any more? Are they expecting any more cuts?
I'm sorry, we have a question. Mr. Landine would like to know if you're anticipating any more cuts being asked of these school districts.
We're still going through all the budgets right now. Nothing is finalized. We tried to kind of figure out the school first. It's the biggest one. We can't say for sure, but we think that's close to something, I would say. As we look at the others, but being at things the way they are, we're the last possible minute trying to cut everything else out.
Okay, thank you, sir.
If we pass a budget that is larger than what we're talking about here, that has to be presented at town meeting, or does that not have to be presented at town meeting?
Can you just ask the question again?
If we vote a budget larger than what we're talking about here, does that have to be presented at town meeting?
Yes.
And
So
if that fails at town meeting, then we go into a regional meeting.
potentially, yes. So what happens then is that if the towns do not vote, and both towns have to vote yes for the budget. If not, it is an automatic no pass. And then what happens is we have to go to potentially another town meeting. And if that doesn't work, then what would happen is we have to remove the town meeting. The problem that comes here is that we have our last meeting on June 11th year, and this has to be done by June 30th. What then happens is we have to now send our budget to the commissioner, and he is going to determine a 1/12 budget. The problem that arises when we go to a 1/12 budget is that we have bills that we pay in the beginning of the fiscal year. So, for example, we pay our retirement. And so we pay it in total for the year because we get a discount. So we won't be able to do things like that. So that starts to create an increase in our budget. While small, it's still an increase. And then what happens is if the towns do not go at a minimum, the minimum required contribution, if they do not do that, DOR has said we will not receive revenue, which means as a district, everybody, and I mean everybody, from superintendent down to the bottom, we are all laid off until this is figured out. When that happens, what's going to happen is unemployment is going to increase even more than it is already in this budget, and you potentially could have services that are cut off that we would have to have turned on, late fees. So again, we're just adding to a budget that is barely sustainable specifically for West Brookfield. So it's really important that these things get met.
Yes, Steve.
If we close the school, if we choose option number 3, is there a way, like, say rural aid comes through, can we take it all back?
Do you need to take a vote back?
Yeah.
I would say yes. I would assume yes. Here's what I'm going to tell you. In order for that to happen, we have to have, at a minimum, the level service budget. And the level service budget, even with a few cuts, was roughly about $2.5 million above minimum contribution. What that means is that Warren and West Brookfield both have to agree to fund that. And while Warren may have the available funds, what that would do is put them in a financial situation that they would have to make potential cuts, and they may need to do about 2.5 in the next year to meet the demands of their budgets. So, you know, this is as horrible of a situation as we could possibly be. True. We've looked at rurally, we've looked at Chapter 70. These are formulas, unfortunately, that while people in the legislature understand that they need to be fixed, we have been told uncertain terms they will not be fixed in time to save this budget or next year either. And that we have to try to figure out. I mean, we've talked to North Brookfield, you know, that was an option to sustain us. Unfortunately, North Brookfield decided that they wanted to stay within their district.
When did they make that decision last?
Sorry, can we just wait for the end for questions and comments, please? Thank you.
However, what happened there was our school choice numbers go up. So as the conversation about enrollment has come up, you know, our formulas are based on our foundation aid. Our foundation aid is our students that live in Warren and West Brookfield. Our total enrollment is students that come to us from other districts, which is our school choice. However, we only receive $5,000 a student, plus if we have any special needs students, we do receive an increment on top of that. But that's not enough to sustain and still be able to have some money in the bank in case something happens. And we've seen it already this year. You know, things break or, you know, we have to get them fixed. And thankfully, Mark is handy and he can do these things and save us money. But, you know, we're just a catastrophic event where a student is setting out a district that puts us in a lot of trouble. And like I said, we have been operating on a shoestring budget for years, as far as I can tell.
Thank you.
Any other questions for themselves from the committee? Oh, sorry, yes.
Can I just clarify for purposes of understanding something? Over here so people can hear me. So one thing what I did here is if the school committee voted a number that was higher than probably what we had been talking about and working on, what would happen is if the regional school district votes that number, that's the assessment that goes to both towns. For West Brookfield, that's the number that would need to be on our town meeting warrant. Our town meeting warrant has to be balanced, which means the cuts that have happened so far to the town departments would need to be deeper to be able to meet the school's higher number on that warrant, just so everybody understands how that works.
Tammy, just so we're clear,
Yep.
so if we asked for an additional 200,000, just making up a number, that cut would have to come from somewhere.
In the town side.
Okay, got it.
Unless
Yep.
we receive revenues.
Okay, yep. Yes, Mr. Burgess.
Ask you to sit, no, ask you to sit.
Okay.
So, you know, this school board is obviously in an untenable situation, so isn't many of the town boards.
Yeah, the towns too,
Put
yep.
this in this spot due to the financial resources at hand. My question is, in the budget, in the reductions that have been made by the advisory committee, by the select board, have you taken into account the expenses that are going to be required to, should we have to close the school, maintain that building? Because as you know, the school board, we lease that from the town.
Correct.
We do all the maintenance to it.
Correct.
That would be the case moving forward. That'll now be turned over to the town. So has that been factored into what is the future potentially of that building and the associated costs of maintaining it, being a vacant building, perhaps?
It's going to be two parts. Part one is going to be, we're going to need to be able to pay for some things, so that's going to be another thing we need to figure out how we're going to pay for that, if that were to happen. And the second thing will then be immediately, what can we do with the building to either, community-wise, we can't support another building. So it's going to be, what can we do to get an RFP to repurpose that building somehow and bring in some revenue sources if that were the case. We're going to have to look at it as quickly as we can, because we just can't let it sit. And it would be up to the school as well, once the school committee makes the decision, and then to let us know, so what day are you actually going to be out? Because I know it's not going to happen on July 1. So it's those kind of timings is what would come into play, but we'd have to put an RFP together and think about what to do and ask community input, that kind of thing. But we wouldn't be able to sustain it as a town building and repurpose it, because we just don't have the means to support another building either. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Armitage, for that.
I make a motion to cease operation at West Brookfield Elementary and return the building to the town of West Brookfield effective July 1st, 2026, as it will no longer be utilized by the Quaboag Regional School District as an educational facility. In addition, all students currently attending West Brookfield Elementary, with the exception of the current 6th grade class, will attend Warren Community Elementary beginning in the 2026-27 school year.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any further discussion on that particular motion made by Mr. Marini? All in favor? Opposed? And abstentions? Okay. So we have Travis and Christina. Motion does not pass. Okay. Does not pass. All right. So we're going to have the next vote for the budget. Okay. Okay. All right. We're now going to have our 20. Sure. We took a vote on whether to keep the school open or closed. It does require a majority of members from the town of West Brookfield. 2 members voted no, 3 members voted yes, and 1 member abstained. So therefore, the motion did not pass. Okay. We do have an opportunity for public comment or questions. If you could please come up to the mic and introduce yourself. And please keep the topics to what was on the agenda, and for a maximum of 3 minutes, please. And thank you. Okay. Yes, please. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
It's not going to project.
The television. So
Oh, don't touch
Yeah,
it?
just-
Okay. My name is Jeannie, and I'm a West Brookfield resident.
Speak up, that's not working.
Yeah.
That's just for
Yeah,
Where am I speaking up to? Oh, just loudly. Okay, thank you. I'm a West Brookfield resident, grew up in Warren, so I understand, what's the plight with, both towns. But my question is to the town that was standing up here and giving information, and I just wanted to find out what the amount of the school was that would have to get paid off if it did get closed. I also wanted to know, we are concerned about the unemployment maybe that would happen if this did go through. But we use the free cash for vacations, and I don't understand why that's not coming out of the benefits of the employees. I see you shaking your head, and so I would like some clarification, because as a taxpayer, I would like to understand that. And my other question is that while the paper was being read, the essay that you were reading to us, you were mentioning that it wasn't, you would assume that if it had gone through with a vote, that it could be taken back, but I would just like to know if we could find out in case the assumption would be wrong. And my lastly thing is that if it did come down to this, which thankfully it didn't pass right now, I think I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know one thing that I heard around was that the proposition override would mean that the town could just raise it whenever, however that they wanted. But knowing that there is now a number, I think that if the residents would know that we could vote on that the people that weren't as willing to go through with it and allow it, that they might, with an actual number, might be a little more comfortable with that. That's all I have to ask and say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not used to speaking publicly. That's not really my forte in life. I want to say thank you to everybody that said no to the motion and abstained, so we have a chance here. My name is Cadence Taylor, and I've been a resident of this town for the past 7 years. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work across all of central Massachusetts. I intentionally chose to make this my home because of the town's character, its beautiful common, its strong sense of community, and its small classroom environments that support meaningful education. Over the last 10 days, I have spent a considerable amount of time speaking directly with residents throughout the community. The overwhelming majority of those conversations reflected a very clear and consistent message. People do not want this school to close. This evening, I stand before you with over 500 signatures from residents who believe this school remains an essential part of our community. What has deeply concerned many of us throughout this whole process is the limited notice provided for families and residents, the inconsistencies in communication, and the growing sense that the community has not been given a meaningful opportunity to participate in determining the future of our school. For many, that has caused frustration, uncertainty, and heartbreak. I respectfully ask the committee to delay any final decisions regarding, which thankfully it has been, to allow the community to do the necessary time and work collaborating with the town, the school leaderships, and to identify responsible, sustainable solutions to properly fund and preserve this school. A decision of this magnitude will have lasting consequences for students, families, and the identity of this town itself. Our community deserves the opportunity to be heard, to be involved, and to help shape the path forward together.
I'm Jordan Brooks from West Brookfield. First, I want to thank the 2 school board members that voted to save our school. It means a lot seeing the ones that believe in our community and our children. I'm not saying you guys don't, there's just a couple that believe a little more. Mr. Duff, I know you said that the rural aid was shut down. That's not true. It's going in front of the Senate in a couple weeks. The Senate's pushing for $16 million. And I believe another $4 million amendment on top of that, plus a few others. I know there's one of our senators is fighting for the $60 million and hoping to negotiate in between. So I guess my question is, if we get that, can we bring back some of the staff that's cut, or once they're cut, they're permanently gone?
So just for clarification, Jordan, I didn't say that it was cut entirely. I said that they're looking at 20 million, which is what you were just pointing out. 16 and 4. It's okay because it doesn't project. Our priority is to keep as many staff in positions to service our kids as much as possible. I know that the town of West Brookfield right now is looking at a $300,000 deficit in their budget. That's with us reducing ours by another $250,000. So if there is additional rural aid, I'm praying. I play the lottery and I donate it all. I would. I am praying that rural aid comes in at a higher level. I can tell you that with the town being $300,000 under budget right now, with all the cuts that they're doing, if we doubled rural aid, say it was another $200,000, we'd be at $400,000. With that funding, we would look at adding more teachers, primarily and specifically to our younger grade levels, K through 2, because that's where early literacy and foundational skills are at the heart of education. Yes, we would be looking to add positions back. That is ultimately our goal. I said this on day one. The last thing that anybody in this district wants to do is close a school. However, when the school committee and the school district is presented the realities of what the budget in West Brookfield are, there's very difficult conversations that we've been having for 6 months with the towns, and this has been an ongoing thing. We've been talking about that for a while. But to answer your question, yes, we would look to add more positions back because we want every teacher in this district. We fight and fight for our teachers, and we've been doing that over the course of time. Because at the end of the day, when we fight for our teachers, we're fighting for our students as well.
Now, where are you guys getting the funding for your sports fields at the high school here? Because I notice our fields at the elementary school are very poorly taken care of. And I heard rumor your booster club owes a lot of back taxes, so I know the funding's not coming from that.
Okay, first off, let me talk about the booster club, because my wife used to be the president.
Okay.
There's no back taxes, they have no money, there's no one to maintain the fields, they do as much as they can, so whatever's there, if you want to be frank, there was someone in West Brookfield that was supposed to do the taxes for years, and then they never did it. They would drop them off, and it just stayed at this person's house. I'm not going to say any names. So yeah, they had to spend 3 years to get their nonprofit back because someone that was doing the pro bono work never filed their taxes. So it wasn't they owe taxes. They couldn't collect any money from the Booster Club to do that because of that situation. So that's what really happened. So everything else is false.
So that's running now, the Booster Club's up and running.
And they were doing their best. They only got their nonprofit back maybe a year ago.
Right. And none of that goes towards West Brookfield Elementary.
West Brookfield Elementary has building grounds and maintenance that they do there. I can tell you, just like at Quaboag, just like at Warren, just like West Brookfield, a lot of our community members help out. I can tell you that I was at West Brookfield Elementary School helping out with the baseball field. That's what we do, and that's what makes Quaboag a special community, is that we all chip in to do the best that we can so we can keep our assessments down for our towns, and that's a practice that we've been doing for a long time. And I'm not saying that for any other reason except for the fact that everybody here contributes in a small way to try to do the best that we can for our students.
It looks nice here. I just wish our school looked a little better.
And we appreciate all the work that you've been doing.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Ray Capaco. I'm a Warren resident. I was the former chairman of the Finance Committee up until last week's election when I was fortunate enough, I think, to become a select board member. I just have a clarifying question. I apologize, I had another town commitment, and this maybe was already addressed. But as of right now, with the vote that was just taken, what would the above minimum contribution for both towns be right now?
So it would still be the budget that was approved on March 30th.
Okay. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to talk to people in West Brookfield because that's not my constituency, but the few people that I have talked to know, I understand how difficult this decision would be. I won't belabor any personal stories about it, but, and this is going to sound threatening, and it's not. It's just a simple fact. There's a quote that I adopted during my campaign to run for select board, and it's a quote by Thomas Sowell. It's nothing original. But if you want to help people, you tell them the truth. And if you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. Warren cannot do the requested budget. If West Brookfield, I'm sorry? Oh, all right. I thought maybe it wasn't, you couldn't hear me, but. Okay. If West Brookfield, the last two Proposition 2.5s in the last 3 years both failed, I'll just tell you the way it is. Warren will never pass a 2.5 override to fund a 1.5 or thereabouts above minimum. And what will happen then, as the finance director indicated, the school will be faced with a 1/12 budget, which still doesn't fund them sufficiently to operate. And so I'm just putting that out there so everyone understands that. I didn't come prepared to speak tonight, and so I think I'll just leave it at that. But it's not a threat. We're going to try and do what we can to support the school. I'm just telling you, not only Warren, West Brookfield themselves, the powers that be in West Brookfield will tell you, the money simply is not there. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Doreen?
Hi, I'm Doreen Pihoda. I'm a grandparent in West Brookfield. Speaking on behalf of a newly formed group, we're called the West Brookfield Community Advocacy Group. We have been working tremendous hours over the past couple of weeks, researching everything. And I don't have to read all of this now because we've had good news tonight. But our group is actively pursuing avenues available to everybody. We have reached out to Senator Durant. We have been writing. We have been campaign writings, phone calls, calling everywhere. We have senior citizens stepping in, messaging our group. I wrote this person. I wrote that person. We're trying to really push the point of we need more Chapter 70 funds. We need more other funds. We need more transportation reimbursement. We need to increase the distribution amount of $5,000 for school choice because a lot of children their families choose to send them to West Brookfield for a good reason. We have an amazing school system. We always have. So our group has remained committed to try to really advocate super strong. There are 52 communities in this state right now that are in the same position we are. They're doing Proposition 2.5 overrides. They're closing schools. They're shuttering parts of their departments. There's a lot of us. We're working and we're trying to coordinate with them, trying to find out information. We have been working tirelessly. I swear, we're on our messenger every 5 seconds, all day long. My phone is blowing up. We research everything, and we are continuously riding the state. And we're helping, and hopefully the other towns are doing the same exact thing. They're starting to get a clear message. They need to start making some changes. And we are truly committed as a community, I think, to really fight back to try to fix this. If we can just get through this year, we will work all year and kill ourselves if we have to try to make some changes. And hopefully we will. And that's basically what I wanted to say because I don't need to really read the rest of it. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for a few more comments. Are there any questions? I'm sorry. All right. Any other comments? I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. Oops, sorry, one more.
My name is Carl Bridges. I live in West Brookfield. I grew up in Warren, so I know both dynamics of each town. Okay, so I hear a lot about budget cuts. Tons of things about budget cuts. Cuts. Has the town of West Brookfield thought of any way to bring more revenue in to help support the schools, the school system? You guys on the school board have done amazing. Okay, I hear the town doing the cuts. I hear the school board working very hard to make sure that that school stays open in West Brookfield and also in Warren. My question now is to West Brookfield and Warren. Have we ever thought about ways to bring more revenue into the town? Businesses? How do we attract businesses? What about that beautiful lake in West Brookfield? How many people go to the lake in West Brookfield in this room right now? How many people have boats that go on that lake in West Brookfield right now? Many times during crises, towns have to do things that people don't like. And people have to do things that they don't really want to do, but should. How do we get more revenue? We take the things that we take for granted and we make it so you can't take it for granted anymore. That boat, to put it on the lake, up the registration a little bit. How about allowing other people than West Brookfield to go to the town lake? You might have to buy a sticker on your car to get there, but you're gonna pay the town for it, but you can go directly into the schools, right? Can we do that? What about Cummins Pond? The same thing can happen there. What about businesses? Too many times I've heard in these small towns, businesses being voted down because it might not fit what the town's image is. I had the greatest pleasure this weekend. My wife and I, we took a ride out to Pennsylvania. We went down to the beautiful town of Lancaster. How many know about that town? Amish community, all that. It's not, it is rural, but it's not fully a rural place. The center of that town is a hustle and bustle like you wouldn't believe. Streets are tight, streets are packed, there's businesses everywhere. They took a farm town and turned it into a beautiful thing because they knew they probably would fail if they didn't. I think it's up to both towns to take a look at itself when its inner workings and say, how do I bring more revenue to the town? Enough about cuts. Let's bring in some revenue. Too many times business is overlooked. How many businesses have closed in West Brookfield? Small businesses, because we don't have the tourist attraction we should have. We're Massachusetts, man. We're a colonial town. Both towns are. And we can't get people to actually spend money in our towns? Why? Because we don't want to ruin the image of a town. Thank you, school board. You guys are amazing. The town people that have put the effort in and all the people that have come together to make sure that that school stays open, I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. But I think the harsh reality is it's time to start cutting, stop cutting, and start pulling revenue in. And I really hope the town of West Brookfield hears me when I say that. Bring in the revenue.
Thank you very much. One more comment or question? Please come up. Okay.
So good evening, school committee. I was here a few weeks ago. I think you guys remember me. Dan Padgett, not a resident, but potentially, we'll see. So I had the opportunity to speak to this committee a few weeks ago, and I appreciate being heard that time. And I want to be honest about what this looks like from the outside again. When a family like mine looks at moving to a town, we are not looking just at a house. We are looking at whether this is a place where our children can grow up, feel rooted, and belong. We look at the school, we look at the community, we ask whether this is a town that is stable, welcoming, and investing in families. I recently visited West Brookfield Elementary School with my kids, just took them to the playground. One thing I noticed was the amount of in memoriam donations, like benches, just things everywhere. And families with people that passed don't donate that stuff for the town. It's donated for the future of the kids, and that kind of hit me hard as to see that stuff. And I have a big question of why a school like that would. I think Westfield, the elementary school is 70 years old. Why would families from West Brookfield donate that stuff? And if you're going to close that school, what's going to happen to that stuff? But also, sorry. Finding out that West Brookfield Elementary School may close has made me seriously question whether buying here would be a mistake. If I made if I bought a house next week, what's going to happen to the value of that house if that school closes? Am I going to be a month from now? Am I going to be underwater because I offered $400,000 instead of $300,000? It's a big decision, and like for children in elementary school is not just a building. It is where they make friends, meet teachers, join a community, and build their sense of home. For parents, it is a signal that the town values in families and young children. It makes me make pause of what the future is going to come. And in reality, like, that school closes, the property values in this town drop significantly fast. I've been looking in this town for a property. Last week, that override failed. The number of, I don't know if everybody's looked at Zillow or anything, the number of properties available on Zillow tripled that week. In the properties I was looking at, those prices dropped. That was 1 week ago. So that's just some reality I'm trying to portray to you guys. And thank you.
Can I just bring up one more point?
Just one more thing, is we do have to wrap up the public comment.
Okay, yeah, it's quick.
That's fine.
It's in regards to Facebook, okay? You have a district page that promotes nothing but the high school, continuously, over and over again. Both elementary schools need their own Facebook pages. I searched it up. When I search up Warren, I end up in Warren, Maryland. When I search up West Brookfield, I end up with nothing but sites and statistics. I have a dance studio now in the town of Palmer. When I look at stuff for the school, there is a school page there that promotes everything, every student, every activity, every teacher's accomplishments, every award given, every single day. So it constantly shows up on my feed. So if somebody wants to find out what's it like in West Brookfield or what's it like in Warren to go to school, they Google Town of Warren Schools Department and they get the high school page, but they don't get anything about the elementary school. I think you really need to start using what we have today, what we use today to communicate, what we use today to basically merchandise our school system, so more people will come in and say, what an incredible school. I had no idea the police chief reads stories to the elementary school because we don't see it. Nobody knows it. We need to make sure everybody knows how amazing our school system is, and that will bring up our enrollment. That's all.
Thank you very much. So we're going to wrap up the public comment section. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. We do have a follow-up question, though, for Ms. Kofsky. I'm sorry to put you on the spot one more time. Mr. Duff has a follow-up question for you.
In terms of us moving forward here with the budget, because we know where we're at now, could you explain how much free cash is available with the town of West Brookfield? I know we talked a little bit about stabilization and what the purpose of the stabilization is. Could you just give us some of that information? So as we go back to the table again, I know that, I think you said you had about 270,000 in free cash, and there was some in stabilization. And we talked a little bit about it at the advisory board meeting and the select board meeting. Can you just talk about that funding and the purposes behind it, just so that we can have our marching orders moving forward? Thank you, Teresa.
So again, for free cash, we have, let's call it maybe just under 300,000 that we were advised by the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services. We are not to use to supplement the budget. That means any budget, doesn't matter, operating budget. Stabilization, those are your savings for, we have capital stabilization. So what is that for? That would be for capital. That would be for capital needs, not to supplement the budget. General stabilization, again, that is your savings for something critical. It's a one-time revenue, just like free cash, a one-time revenue. Once you take it, it's gone forever. again, that is not an account that is set up for supplementing your budget. Does that answer your question?
It does. And do you use that to offset what you can borrow?
Yeah, so right now in our general stabilization, I want to say there is over 1.2 million, so that sounds like a really great number. I want to say maybe it's a little more than that. It might be closer to the 1.4. So that sounds like it's a real big number, except that we are required to maintain, I want to say, almost 1.2 million. When we cut into that, that's when we jeopardize our bonding, our borrowing in a big way. So, and as it so happens, the town of West Brookfield does not have a great bonding record. Because why? The use of free cash year after year after year has affected our bond rating. So.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to go into executive session to include all the members of the school board, Superintendent Duff, Ms. Gonzalez, and Ms. Courtney.
Second? Okay, roll call.
Yeah, aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.